Why Taylor Swift keeps winning, the truth behind her longevity. Most artists rise, peak, and eventually fade, not because they lack talent, but because the industry moves fast, attention shifts, and audiences constantly look for something new. But every now and then, someone breaks that pattern. Someone stays relevant not just for years, but for decades, and in this generation, that person is Taylor Swift, because her success is not based on luck, not based on a single moment, but on a system of decisions, discipline, and awareness that allows her to keep winning even when the odds should be against her. From the very beginning of her career, there was something different about the way she approached music, not just as a creative outlet, but as a long-term path, something that needed to be built carefully, step by step, with intention. And while many artists focus only on making hits, she focused on building connection, building identity, and building a relationship with her audience that would last beyond any single song or album. And that decision to focus on connection rather than just popularity became one of the strongest foundations of her career, because popularity can change quickly, trends can disappear, but connection creates loyalty, and loyalty creates longevity, and over time, that loyalty has become one of her greatest advantages, allowing her to move through different phases of her career without losing the people who support her. As the industry changed, as new sounds emerged, and as new artists entered the spotlight, she did not resist change, she adapted to it, but in a way that still felt true to who she was, and that balance between evolution and identity is one of the most difficult things to maintain, because changing too much can lose your audience, while not changing at all can make you irrelevant, but she has managed to stay in that space where growth feels natural rather than forced. There is also a level of awareness in how she approaches each phase of her career, because she understands that every era is temporary, every moment has a lifespan, and instead of trying to hold on to one version of herself, she allows each phase to exist fully and then transitions into the next, creating a sense of progression that keeps her story moving forward rather than repeating itself. And within that progression, there is a clear pattern of reinvention, not as a reaction to pressure, but as a proactive decision, because she does not wait for the industry to push her into change, she moves first, she shifts direction before it becomes necessary, and that ability to move ahead of the curve is one of the reasons she continues to lead rather than follow. But longevity is not just about change, it is also about consistency, not in style, but in effort, because behind every album, every performance, and every decision, there is a level of work that remains constant, a commitment to quality, a commitment to improvement, and a refusal to settle, even after reaching a level of success that would allow her to slow down. This combination of change and consistency creates a balance that is difficult to achieve, because it requires both flexibility and discipline at the same time, the flexibility to evolve and the discipline to maintain standards, and over the years, she has shown that she can manage both without losing control. There is also a deeper understanding of the audience that plays a role in her continued success, because she does not treat her listeners as passive consumers, she treats them as part of the journey, involving them through storytelling, through shared experiences, and through a sense of inclusion that makes them feel connected to her growth. And that connection is not built through surface-level interaction, it is built through authenticity, through moments that feel real, through lyrics that reflect genuine experiences, and through a level of honesty that allows people to see parts of themselves in her music, and that emotional connection is what keeps people returning, album after album, year after year. At the same time, she has developed a strong understanding of the business side of her career, recognizing that longevity is not only about creativity, but also about control, about ownership, about making decisions that protect her future rather than just her present, and that awareness has allowed her to build a career that is not easily disrupted by external changes. And when challenges arise, as they inevitably do, she does not respond impulsively, she responds strategically, taking time to understand the situation, to plan her next move, and to act in a way that strengthens her position rather than weakening it, and that level of patience is something that many people overlook, but it plays a significant role in long-term success. There is also a mental aspect to longevity that cannot be ignored, because staying relevant for that long requires resilience, the ability to handle criticism, to recover from setbacks, and to continue moving forward even when the environment becomes difficult, and over time, she has shown that she possesses that resilience, that ability to remain focused despite external pressure. As her career continues, the idea of winning begins to change. It is no longer just about charts or awards, it becomes about influence, about impact, about the ability to shape conversations, to inspire others, and to leave a mark that extends beyond individual achievements. And in that sense, her definition of success has expanded. And that expansion allows her to operate on a different level, one where decisions are not just about immediate results, but about long-term positioning, about building something that will remain relevant even as the industry continues to evolve. And that forward-thinking mindset is what keeps her ahead. There is also an understanding that nothing lasts forever, that every career eventually reaches a point of transition, and instead of ignoring that reality, she prepares for it, building skills, exploring new areas, and creating opportunities that can support her beyond any single phase of her career. And that preparation is part of what makes her longevity sustainable, because it is not based on one path. It is supported by multiple possibilities, multiple directions that can be explored as time goes on, allowing her to adapt without losing momentum. As we look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that her ability to keep winning is not based on one factor, but on a combination of many: strategy, creativity, discipline, connection, and awareness, all working together to create a system that supports long-term success. And while others may rise quickly and fade just as fast, she continues to move forward, not because she avoids change, but because she understands it, not because she avoids pressure, but because she manages it, and not because she follows the industry, but because she has learned how to operate within it without being controlled by it. Because in the end, the truth behind her longevity is not something simple, it is something built over time, shaped by decisions, refined through experience, and sustained by a mindset that focuses not just on where she is now, but on where she is going next. And as long as that mindset remains, her story will continue, her influence will grow, and her ability to keep winning will remain one of the most defining aspects of her career. And as that long-term mindset continues to guide her forward, it becomes even more evident that her consistency is not accidental. It is engineered through habits, routines, and a clear understanding of priorities, because sustaining success over time requires more than inspiration. It requires structure, and that structure is what allows creativity to remain productive even under pressure. Within that structure, there is a deliberate approach to how she allocates her time, how she manages energy, and how she transitions between phases of work and rest, because constant output without recovery leads to burnout, and maintaining longevity means knowing when to push forward and when to step back in order to reset and return stronger. Another important factor in her continued relevance is her ability to read the cultural environment around her, understanding shifts in audience behavior, changes in media consumption, and the evolving expectations of listeners, and instead of reacting blindly to these changes, she integrates them into her strategy in a way that aligns with her identity. This ability to adapt without losing authenticity is rare, because many artists either resist change and become outdated, or they change too much and lose the essence that made them unique. But she has maintained a balance where evolution feels like a natural extension of who she is rather than a departure from it. There is also a strong emphasis on storytelling within her work, not just as a creative choice, but as a method of building continuity across her projects, because storytelling allows her to create a sense of progression that connects different moments in her career into a larger narrative, giving her audience something to follow over time rather than isolated releases. And that narrative approach contributes to long-term engagement, because people are not just consuming individual songs, they are following a journey, observing growth, interpreting meaning, and forming connections that deepen with each new phase, and that depth of engagement is a key driver of sustained success.